Hello and welcome to another Tech Circus event. We're here today to explore how the evolving technology of Web3 is going to affect you. How's everyone doing? Let's see you in the chat box on the right-hand side there, so you'll get familiar with it. The platform that we're using today is the same platform that's going to be used at the Web3 event in next week. So check it all out, get familiar with it, how it works. This is what we're going to use as well. So on the right-hand side, you've got your live chat. Also, you can throw any questions you want in the next panel over there. At the top, throw some questions you want to ask the panelists today. You have the ability there. We might throw up a poll as well during the session if something comes up. So that's great there. I want to give a shout out to Elastos and Algorand for sponsoring these events. A big shout out to Elastos and Algorand. It's what makes these possible that we can do these. Looking ahead to the Web3 event, not long now, people, not long now at all. Do join. Anyone that's joining here today, if you're not signed up for the Web3 event, you will be getting an email about that. Everyone's going to be invited, so don't worry about that. We've got some great prizes over there as well for those attending. We've got things from DressX and some cool digital outfits there. Chrobotics are doing a free builder plans. We've got crypto to give away. It's just I don't know. It's a bit crazy. I stay away from that. I stay on the content. Let's stick with the content. So we are here today with Becks, my co-host. So I'm going to welcome Becks to the stage. We have also Benjamin from DareWise. Welcome Benjamin to the stage. We've got Chris MacGregor. And we've got Delz. So welcome all to the stage as you log in there, as it all logs in. Let me do that. So I'm going to hand the reins over to Becks. I'm going to still be around, and I'll be in the background in the background here. Should you need me? Brilliant. So with that, I'm going to disappear.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Hello to everyone who has tuned in. We've got a wonderful array of 50 people already in the session at the moment, so it's fantastic to have everyone there. And it's great to have our wonderful panelists here, some of which you will be meeting for the first time, and you'll probably be meeting some of them for the second time at our Web3 conference next week as well. So we are talking about the wonderful world of Web3. It's a very exciting time for, I think, anyone in this industry. And what we're bringing you today are three experts with three very different areas that are embracing Web3 technology, from data to fashion to gaming. And it's just a really exciting time. And yes, we are still very much early to the opportunities that Web3 is going to leave open to us. But I think to kickstart things, I'm sure a lot of you guys who are here with us today are probably saying, I kind of know what Web3 is. I kind of get the idea of it. But I'm not sure if I had to sum it up in a sentence how I do that. So what I want to do is ask our wonderful panelists, first and foremost, about what Web3 means to them and their business. So let's go straight over to Chris to kickstart things off. Chris, you run Cordial World. You're involved in the world of data, and obviously the idea of sharing your vision for a fairer future through the data and the services that you provide. Tell us about how Web3 weaves into the world of data.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a really quick, my view of Web3 really quickly, because there are so many different interpretations of it at the moment, and it's an esoteric word in itself or topic. And so therefore, because it's vaguely defined, people sort of go off on their own tangents around it. It's a progression from Web 1 and 2. I mean, that's pretty clear. I think that's an easy way of thinking about it. And there's this, I'm going to steal this because I'm on first, so I can. But, you know, there is this easy way of thinking of it, is that Web 1 is like read, Web 2 is read, write, and Web 3 is read, write, and own. And that's a basic difference. Or, you know, there's another guy called Robert Aronovich, I think his name is, who came up with something similar, which is, you know, Web 1 was, you know, put your username and password in. Web 2 was, you know, sign in with Google or LinkedIn. You know, Web 3 is just connect your wallet. So it's about ownership and identity. And for me, you know, that's about going from an internet of strangers, really low on trust, to a smart web of individuals in communities with high levels of trust that are afforded to them by self-sovereign identity.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a great way of summing it up. I mean, I think of Web 1 and I think of the Pizza Hut example where you might just be able to order a pizza from Pizza Hut by putting your details in, but you still have to pay in cash at the other end of it. So it's a really interesting way of looking at things. But now the world has evolved so much. And I think for anyone out there who's a bit of a skeptic about all of this, just remember 2007, 2008, when everyone's going, why would we need social media? Why would we need apps on our phones? And look at where we are now. And the embracing of Web3 is what is going to then move things even more into a more immersive space, a more opportunity. You mentioned wallets. People might not necessarily know what we mean by wallets, crypto wallets, MetaMask, Coinbase, all these different things, ways to use your digital assets and your digital currency as a means to pay for things and interact with things as well. So really exciting. Delz, you work in the world of fashion. We see headlines popping up left, right, and center that, you know, Gucci is teaming up with Superplastic, and people are creating wearables left, right, and center. And people are probably asking, why do I need it? Why do I need something that I will never actually have? What is it that Web3, or what is it about Web3 that inspired you? Excuse my cat that's decided to join us on stage.
That's part of Web3.
What is it about Web3 that made you in 2020 go, I want to build a business around fashion and use Web3 to make it happen?
No, absolutely. I see Web3 as, you know, decentralized, tokenized, and community first. So it's pretty much on those three pillars. So, you know, for us at Thrill, it's just all about, like, you know, being able to build things with people, doing things together, and, you know, community first feedback, and like taking it away from like a central authority, you know, who sort of like dictates everything, is what I sort of see as, you know, the benefits of going down a Web3 route for any startup. So yeah, it's a great thing, and, you know, looking forward to like continuously building with it in it. So,
absolutely. And I think something that I keep an eye on in terms of the fashion industry is the way how quickly that is embracing Web3 and moving things forward. And I think the opportunity there is going to be huge for anyone that embraces that. I think you mentioned the word transparency or within what you said, and I think that's kind of a key when it comes to Web3. Benjamin, in the world of gaming, you know, I suppose anyone that's kind of gets into gaming and understands that, which is most households, we're almost sort of semi-native to the world of Web3 through gaming and understanding what that's all about. Has it been an easy sell?
Oh, I mean, I wish it were true. I think we're in the very early days, and we have so much to do to bring people there. You know, there's only 3 million right now of crypto gamers on the market of close to 3 billion gamers. So we'll have a long way to go. But you know, I was thinking of, okay, how, you know, after these two gentlemen brought their very educated definition, how can I really bring something to the conversation? Because I obviously agree very much with what you guys are all saying. I think there is definitely this idea of it's the future of internet, where we operate in a decentralized way. And I think it's, in a way, it's really interesting because there is kind of this idea of an opposition to depending on tech giants, you know, and I think in a way it kind of either triggered or nurtured, fueled this desire for Web3, that we would be able to be, you know, more independent and more free, and that basically there would be a lot of stakeholders rather than just a few. And this idea of stakeholder would actually be expanded even to the users themselves. And so for me, it's about fairness. Especially in the world where I come from, gaming, we have never really rewarded we never really found tools to reward players for the value they created. And we just tend to forget that in our interactive world, when a player is here, he or she is already creating value to you. The fact that I'm playing World of Warcraft, I create value because I impact your experience. I interact with other players. So in a way, I should have opportunities to be a stakeholder for real. It's not just about financial reward. It's about decision-making power, be contributing in a meaningful and lasting way. And I think this is what Web3 is really bringing.
So would you say, I suppose, the concept of play to earn should take a broader perspective then in that respect? So what you're earning is not just financial rewards, but it's so much more.
And that's why I'm a big advocate that play to earn, which is a very interesting first step into this direction, is just a step, and play and earn is where I think we'll really get this whole thing to take off in a massive way.
Absolutely. One more question for you, just for now, Benjamin, just whilst we're on it. Why do you think it's been a little bit of a hard sell to move gamers? You're talking about, is it 3 billion gamers out there, but yet there's such a small percentage that are embracing the Web3 concept. Why do you think that is? I would have thought they would have rushed to the idea of this, of taking more control.
It's interesting because we were so many from that small community today to have expected that, to have expected a different dynamic on the market. The reality is to understand why, it's very interesting to understand, but why is there so much pushback for now? Because basically we're giving players, where the opportunity to own their content in the world and to do whatever they want with it, when they were already playing games and have some form of ownership, but they were very much limited with what they could do. So it's hard to see what. So the first thing is probably that there is the blockchain in general has this very strong prejudice against that is, that it's been hurting the planet. It's been very ecologically destructive, which was true to some extent, and of course the technology has matured. We're getting away from proof of work to get into more of a proof of stake. There are so many protocols that are being developed to completely alleviate that problem. So there is this was a big burden, I think, on the community, and we also I think we're just a little bit naive and we rushed a bit too much. Players have always been very conservative. When game as a service, or this is the game as a service, is the nice way to call free to play. But when free to play started to happen, or mobile gaming back then, people were viscerally against it. They were viscerally against all these new monetization strategies and mechanics that are very well accepted today. So again, I think it takes time. It's our responsibility to promote the benefit, and we should not use the technology just for the sake of using it. It has to bring value to the players, and we just have a long good way to go to get them really convinced about the benefit, and which is what it is.
You know what? There's been a comment in our chat box here, actually, from Carl Mahoney from ZAM, who's just said, I think most gamers are just skeptical of any game devs introducing new ways to pay for games, even if they have the chance to earn far more than they spend. So it is, as you said, it is going to take some time to change the culture of this. And I think for all of the industries that you guys are representing here today, I would like to know if actually the pandemic, I'm sure in the gaming industry, this has sped things up particularly. I don't know if it's sped things up in fashion, Delz, or in the wonderful world of data. I mean, data is always here, whether or not we're on our computers in the office or at home or wherever, pandemic or no pandemic. But have you seen a change in adoption, attitude because of the pandemic towards Web3, more of an interest in it perhaps? Delz, how have you seen the world of fashion? I mean, I know you're from the technology side of Thrill Digital, but keeping an eye on that side of things, because it's quite, I wouldn't say the term the fashion industry is archaic, but it's traditional. And that with these big fashion brands like embracing this world, is it suddenly they just woken up because everyone's moving into such a quick digital sphere because of the way that we've been living in the last 2 years?
Absolutely. I think, because, the core idea of Web3 is, decentralization and giving power to creators. We have whereas typically it's the bigger fashion houses that are pushing change. We have so many amazing, digital fashion designers, creatives that are creating really cool NFTs with utility, just beyond, the profile picture use case. And we see that, like, driving that being community first, and, having a community of creators who are keen on giving feedback to each other, teaching each other new skills and tools. So, I think that all happened when everyone was locked up and everyone was seeking like a community to like help themselves, and sort of like worked hand in hand, being locked in your house, and also like looking for new people to learn with. So I think sort of like, led to like your great growth of like, Web3 opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, communities, it's been mentioned left, right, and center in this conversation, and we're only, 15 or so minutes into it. It is so important where, people find their tribes, and it's tribal, isn't it? It's kind of, you're driven in that respect, but actually you're still in a space where you're sharing data, you're sharing information with each other, with people that you haven't met in real life, and the vetting that you can only do is digital. Chris, over to you to an extent of just, you're all about sort of, building a world to share knowledge freely, but I would be interested to find out a little bit more, and I'm sure people will, about the security and issues around that, and what we should be looking out for. Because I know particularly in the NFT space, which is where I sit, it is very much still the Wild West. We embrace Web3, but we know that there are scammers, there are people who will try and steal your seed phrases, like drain your wallets and things like that. So you do have to still keep your wits about you. But, data is so important, and will be even more important as more people embrace this world. So what is the landscape looking like at the moment from a data perspective?
Well, so it's that's a series of amazingly rich, deep questions there. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, well, I mean, just going back to what the pandemic has sort of led us to with this, actually, and sort of Benjamin's point about slower adoption from some of the gamers that you might have thought would have taken those sort of earlier risks with it. I think that the pandemic brought us all into sort of online communication in a way that we thought we were going to head to, and it's kind of rushed that forward by probably a decade, actually, in a year or two. And so we've now got all sorts of people being able to communicate with each other, and using all of the tools that are currently provided by the big tech Web2 providers. So that's great. That's good for adoption, and I think people are seeing and appreciating that digital is now part of their lives. And so I think there's been an increase in opportunity for those people who want to take advantage of them, all of those new users. But there's also been an increase in learning and people trying to understand what is going on in that digital space. And that goes from very basic sort of tactical level, how do I protect my password? Is there a better way of doing it? To some of these more macro issues, like, is there a new way of actually sharing this information that might be safer or better than the way that we're currently doing it? And I think people have started to examine everything from why big tech exists and how it operates and what the business models are, to what money is actually and why it exists, and why blockchain and blockchains generally allow you to tokenize things and operate in a different mechanism. So I think it's widened people's perspectives, but we're so early. I mean, it's ridiculous how early we are, and you can find that out. I mean, in our little bubbles, we think we're kind of ahead of the game, until you meet another bubble that is doing something different in this space, and you realize just how much is going on, how many bright minds are working on it. But then if you go into normal society, you take yourself out of your crypto bubble, and go and talk to normal people, they'll still be asking you what Bitcoin is and the fact that it's a scam. The fact that it's been around for 12 years and it's proving itself, and it and Ethereum and all of the other layer 2 and then beyond projects are having an enormous impact across every single aspect of society. So I think, to answer your question about security and stability, or security, I think we are there are a lot of people that are really early to this, and so they're frightened. And it is quite frightening when you try for the first time to engage in some of this. I think there are increased opportunities for scammers, and we're still in a position of very little regulation and law that surrounds this. So there's a lot of gray space for people to be operating in, which is great for entrepreneurs, not so great for people who form the main body of society and want to adopt it after it's been developed.
So to that point, then, do we need regulation within this?
Well, I think regulation in anything is good to an extent, but it's got to be designed to allow the freedoms that you would have in design to be magnified and accelerated. Otherwise, you just clamp down on that innovation. But we have international regulations around things like aviation, which we completely expect and adhere to. I mean, every pilot knows what the English phrases are. Everyone uses the same sort of technology to communicate. The messages are passed in the same way, and we do that because it makes sense and we gain out of it. It's effective and it's efficient. And actually, some of the regulation that already exists for the internet will move forward into the development of the web. But I think the biggest factor, and this is my last point because I know I've been in the air for airwaves for a while now, but the real benefit of Web3, which isn't here yet, I don't think. You could describe it as Web 4, but the next evolution is when it's not just data and code, but we move to the data is the code. And the fact that we remove the data double spend problem that exists at the moment. So Bitcoin solved the money double spend problem. Web3 and what comes after it is going to solve this idea that you can have multiple versions of the same data or code at the same time. Like if I send you a Word document, I own it and you own it. We need to get to a point where if I send you the Word document, it's executed by you in your own application, which is in a virtual machine, and I don't have access to it anymore because I sent it to you. Yeah. And when we've got that delineation, and it's coming, and that's what NFTs sort of do, as you'll know, but we're not quite there yet, but we're very much moving in that direction. And when we have that, that's true ownership then, because your code is yours. And at that point, we can really leverage the economic benefits of it in a much more trustworthy environment.
Absolutely. And we've got some really good comments in our chat box here. Let me just have a quick look. Jason from We the People has just said, really looking forward to owning my own identity and only contracting with the business I support. Which I think is, that's the way that a lot of us are thinking. It's about taking charge. It's about having that transparency and being able to. It always feels like we're not able to make our own decisions right now. I think digitally we're kind of like, this is the whole thing about decentralization. We can take charge of our own futures and destinies. Now, Chris, earlier in the conversation, you mentioned about that we've moved things forward probably 10 years ahead of what we would have expected to have moved forward from because of the pandemic. Delz and also Benjamin, I would like to ask you guys now just to have a think about and what your thoughts are on what you think the future is. If we're 10 years ahead now, what's going to happen in 10 years time from now? What can you get your crystal balls out? Let us know what you think the future is going to look like. The future of the fashion industry, embracing Web3 and possibly Web 4 as well, Delz. What do you think that looks like?
I think that's gonna have to do with a lot of having products on the blockchain first. So, creating a product as a 3D asset that people can explore, experience, virtual worlds with. Sort of like you don't have to always buy it and receive it in the physical version all the time. You can buy it first as a 3D asset, explore and have that as your first virtual identity. And then if you feel like you're comfortable enough and you enjoy, this asset enough in the virtual world, then you can bring it into the real world to have a continuous identity in, both the, virtual and physical world. So it's one identity all through with the same, starting with the digital version of the asset and then flowing into the physical version. I think definitely that's something that will become much more commonplace, and it solves also, like, you know, what Vera is saying in the comments, you know, that would definitely like make the fashion industry a lot more sustainable, because, you know, you're starting digital first instead of straight off into like physical. So I think that's something that we could see happening.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you know, some people who can't quite get their heads around this might go, why? What's the value of having something digital? I can't, you know, what if I can't show someone physically what I've got? Why do I want it? And actually, I don't know if you agree with me on this. I think Gary Vee said this. He put this in a really, really clever way. And he said, if you were to buy a piece of art, a physical piece of art, and have it in your home, only the people that are coming into your home are going to see that piece of art. Whereas if you, and it's the same with fashion, whereas if you wear it in the metaverse or you're wearing it digitally, it matters and more people will be able to see it. And it's like, why do we flex these things? It's because why do people have blue ticks on their Twitter profiles for verification? Why do people care how many followers they have? It does matter. It's people just can't quite get their heads around it's mattering in a different way now. We're progressing the way that we appreciate what matters and what doesn't in the world. And I think it is just that leap that we need to take. So Benjamin, again, I keep going back to, I read stuff in the papers about gamers not embracing NFTs. You know, they're not embracing that world. And you've obviously talked about how hard it is to bridge that gap. And it's a hard sell for gamers. What does the future look like? How do you think, funnily enough, being at the forefront of what everyone expects to be ahead of things in Web3, right? Well, to be ahead of things in terms of technology and general adoption from the gaming industry right now, is it going to see a slowdown? And are we going to see actually gaming is going to be left behind in the world of Web3 because they're just going to be
No, that I think gaming.
Sorry to make you spit your beer out.
Yeah, no, I think it's the opposite. I actually think that gaming is going to make the whole experience more accessible to a lot of people, because actually, I think right now we'll see the way we're talking about some of this stuff here is still in a very binary way, I would say, which is it gaming? Is it fashion? Is it labor? Like, is this your work? Is it entertainment? Is it? I think we're going, and Gen Zs are definitely helping us getting there in a very non-binary world, and take this more really way beyond the gender definition. When I talk about non-binary, I'm talking about the end of a world where every topic is addressed from a very dichotomous standpoint. You know, where we're trying to oppose black and white. We're mixing everything now. We're merging experiences. And so it's going to take us to a point where in this digital world, we're basically going to enable people to have multiple existences. And I think the opportunity that we're giving to the world and to individuals in the world is to have not just one single existence, one single identity like we have already in our physical world, which is fun for some people, not fun for some others, based on, you know, your background, where you were born, and so many factors. You know, the world is not that fair, as we know. In this digital world, we're going to be able to be us, someone else, a totally different type of person, and it's gonna matter, because this world, thanks to everything that we've talked about, will give us existence that matter at least as much as our physical one. So in 10 years, because that was your question, in 10 years, we're finally living these dreams of having multiple existences. And I think this is going to be, insane. Like, some people will make revenues online. Some people will have most of their friends online, and will just eat and take showers at home. Some people will do the opposite. There will be this whole digital world, and we won't be opposing anymore what's real and what's virtual. It will be more talking about physical and digital rather than virtual and real.
So Ready Player One in 10 years.
Yeah, but the problem with the Ready Player One and a lot of the literature is that it was always built on a dystopian world, which is not. We're not running away from the reality, because we're not going to oppose these things. They're just going to be one thing, and we will navigate, through these different layers of our existence.
Yeah, I agree. I find it very, very exciting. I know you guys are all in agreement with me. We've just got to convince everyone else. We've had a question come in from Sam Taylor from Dorkslayer, who has asked, do we have any suggestions on how secure it is to join multiple projects with a single MetaMask wallet? Or would it be best to join multiple projects with different addresses for optimum security? Chris, I wonder, I see the word security.
Yeah, you thought of me. Well, I guess you could. In theory, you should be fine with a MetaMask address in multiple projects, sharing that. But it does mean that anybody can examine what that address or that wallet holds. So, you could go on to a site to look at that very easily. So if you wanted to be entirely secure, you should probably do that. But you should probably not have any of your stuff on something like MetaMask anyway. So once you've joined it, once you're owning a token, then it's better to put it in cold storage if you want to be totally secure, and not have it on something that is running inside your Chrome browser or whatever.
I think maybe to complement it, I think people have a wrong understanding, and Chris, you're the expert here, but you hopefully I got it right. People get a wrong understanding of what a wallet is, and people think of a wallet as like this thing that really holds my stuff, which is absolutely not the case. What holds your stuff is the blockchain ledger. So your wallet is just an address, And I think once we start understanding that, we see security from a very different standpoint, which is, okay, it's not about it, because if I have your address, I can just check, on Etherscan and just check what you have in it. So this is, in a way, it's public. But what matters is the possibility to interact with the chain, with this address, and to certify a transaction. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where we'll, and I think I see a lot of people, because I see that internally in the company when we start onboarding our team, on blockchain, and helping them to be able to start, buying some NFTs, some tokens, and they all freak out all the time because of that. And as soon as we started explaining them the difference, I see them and actually go now more for cold storage because of that.
Did you say go off of cold storage, or
no, go to?
Good. Okay, just checking on that. That's really interesting, because I was going to ask as well what the dangers of a multiple identity actually is. Because Benjamin, you talked about everyone having a multiple identity. Mm. When in a world which, like I say, in the NFT space is classed as a bit of the Wild West in a way, people can hide behind their avatars. They can pretend to be people. They can be, they can be anyone that they want to be in a way. Does that pose danger? Like, I'm concerned about it. I'll open it up to anyone that wants to answer on that and have a point of view.
I'll take that first, if I may. But I think it's a really understandable fear when you've been living in a Web 2 world, where nobody knows who anybody is on the internet. And you may have seen that sort of fantastic cartoon of the dog at the computer screen saying, the great thing about the internet is you can be a dog and no one knows. And that's true. So we can create multiple identities now, and there's no recourse at all to find out who you actually are. Whereas what we will be able to do, as we are able to attribute data to an individual, is out of choice. Actually, you will be able to say, from this particular avatar or wallet or address, these are the things that I do want to share with you. So you get the choice as the user about how much data you want to share with a particular application or third party if you're using one. And likewise, that third party can declare, well, I need to know the following things. I don't need to see all of your data, but I do want to see the following things. And that will be the contract between you and them. But it will therefore be able to actually hold that user account attributable for what they do or accountable for what they do. So in many ways, I think it's going to be a safer environment, because you will be able to just work with those people that have declared who they are, or have at least got some identity that is verifiable. And in that sense, it's much better than it is currently.
Okay. And anyone else? Benjamin, Delz, got any points on that as well?
I think the foundations of cryptography is just really around anonymity, being able to send money all around the world without a central authority knowing who you are. So I do see the reason why a lot of Web3 big influencers tend to have avatars that you kind of know who they are, but you don't know who they are in real life. And we've seen cases where someone could be the head of a project. I think stuff happened with I think it was Beanie recently, where it was sort of said that he was acting like he was part of projects and saying he wasn't, because you couldn't trace to know who he was in real life. But I think the good thing is that whereas in Web2 projects, if someone is the CEO, you know who they are wearing the suits in their avatar on LinkedIn, and you know exactly who they are. Web3, sometimes they may be unknown. I think the good thing is always that it's it's the blockchain, so you can always trace people's wallet addresses, look at the punk or the avatar they've bought, and still, even though people are anonymous or have different identities, there's always still a way to find out who someone really is if they try to do something pretty dodgy. So I think it's helping with anonymity where it's needed, but still giving a way to find out who someone truly is if they do something dodgy. So I think it's also pretty interesting. Yeah,
it is interesting, because actually the conversation within the NFT space at the moment is, with an NFT project, some are docs, some of the team are docs, some aren't. And actually in 2022, I think as that space has evolved and grown a little bit more, people are kind of expecting that if you're going to mint from a project or get involved in a project from an investment point of view, you want to see a doxed team. It's becoming so much more important. So there's anonymity to a point where maybe that's more from a buyer's perspective, but I don't think, if you're treating an NFT like a business and you're everyone that's buying into it is essentially a shareholder for who you're having to deliver to, you have to justify what you're going to do to those shareholders, right? So you need to start with being open and honest with who you are as a team. Benjamin, I don't know if you were shaking your head at that and disagreeing, or if you were.
No, I think it's. What I was processing is just, I think it's just that there is a big paradigm shifting that's going to happen, which is, it's not so much about the individual anymore. It's about the content. It's about the items. And so who is in front of you in a way doesn't matter, because you are able, thanks to decentralization, to check the nature of this asset. It's publicly available. I think it's just that people, they do your own research is obviously a pillar, an important pillar that's going to have to grow, and probably there will be services, and that will pop to support or to facilitate that. But I think this just just because we're still trying too much to process this Web3 world with the lens, with the tools of Web3, with the education that we get from the existing world, and there's a lot of legacy. We need to relearn a bunch of these things, and of course, things are going to start to change. And I'm not saying at the same time that this is the whole thing is about being anonymous. I think it's just that who you are doesn't matter all the time, and there are times when it does. For instance, let's say that you're running you're launching an NFT collection. Yes, then it matters. Or you're launching a new game project. There it matters. And if you see I don't know, if I am only defined by one of my PFP, what is my street cred, to as a game developer? That's not going to help me very much. So of course, in that context, I will disclose who I am, because it's one of my assets. So it's just that, while before you had no choice, now you decide, and it's your decision to know if disclosing is a benefit or not. And what matters is, at the end of the day, is the asset. But if someone who's unknown tries to publish something, and it might just not be successful, because there will be a lack of trust.
Yeah.
But I do think, you said, do your own research, and there's information available that you can trace back on certain assets or things, but actually that information is only available when it's available. So from an NFT perspective, if someone is going to mint a project, that project could have come from, there may be no background apart from what is being told within the community and written on a roadmap and put on a website. And you kind of there's an element of trust there within the team. And that trust is heightened when a team is doxed. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. It's community first, right? This is what Web3 is about.
Yeah.
So, so you can do your own research. It doesn't necessarily have to be scanning the chain. It can also be, what is this community? What is the activity on this Discord? Who's there? There are opinion leaders. Are they here? And then it's never bulletproof, right? But people also got frustrated for supporting Kickstarter projects in the past, or so it can never. I don't think it can ever be perfect. But you have opportunities, really, to dramatically lower, your risk or chances to have an unpleasant experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, going back to the whole Beanie Maxi conversation that Delz has brought in as well, we know that, again, it's about the trust issue. You've got to be really careful with who you trust. I don't really trust many influencers in the NFT space, because sometimes they're being paid a lot of money to shill a project and they're not actually declaring it. So you've just got to have your wits about you. But like I say, we are still in a bit of the wild west at the moment. Now, I'm going to move everything on. We've got about 15 minutes left of the conversation. We want to get round to what both Benjamin and Chris are going to be talking about at our Web3 program. But we've got some questions from some of our brilliant audience members here. So I'm going to go with Jennifer has asked a question. How do we get involved with projects? If we aren't a coder or a developer, is there room for non-tech folks to help make Web3 come to life? What a fantastic question. Delz, let's come to you from a fashion perspective. That's that getting your head into the world of fashion. We've got fashion buyers, we've got fashion designers, we've got tailors. How is this all going to work with a web, taking that skill set and moving it into a Web3 space?
No, I think like everything is all about passion and being able to support a community in any way you feel fit to. So it's it could be fashion, it could be boxing, football, it could be math, it could be cricket, anything. Like if you're passionate about it and there's a community of people, there'll be things to do. Join the Discord, ask questions, help in any way, help organize meetings, meetups in real life. Just be a part of the community, and you find yourself being more and more responsible for more things. If you make yourself available. So I think that's the core thing, joining and making yourself available to help. Yeah, I think that's key.
Yeah. And you'll also learn more of the, I say, traditional Web3 skills, but more of those more digital skills as you immerse yourself within the community. So bring what you can offer. And if you look at something like the metaverse, that's going to open a whole host of opportunities. Real estate agents, mortgage brokers with NFTs, for instance,
journalists.
Yeah, journalists, myself as an example, create content around this. Don't steal my job though. And doing all of those great things that you just need to shift your mindset into a different way, to thinking, actually, what if this was in a digital sphere? What can I offer in that respect? Benjamin, from a gaming perspective, I'm sure there's anyone that's interested in gaming, there's already a quite an interesting through line to move into the Web3 space from what is traditionally known within gaming in a way. Is there anything more that someone can do if they're in that area?
I think obviously the more and more games are also going to support creation within the games, without having to use like very complicated tools. From just playing the games themselves, you are actually part of the Web3 community, because by playing the game, you can earn in-game resources, items. You can run events in this world, in this game world. If you, obviously, I think you have the game we're developing, Life Beyond. You can be, you can run a venue. You can own the bar. Yes, it's a game world, but all of these things matter, and you can participate to just animate, create more activity for the community. I think, to me, to be honest, Web3 is not about technology. It's about community. Technology is just a means to an end, but the point is for community to be the central and the key part of the value proposition and of the value creation. The technology is just here to help that. So yeah, for sure, we need more people who can code, so that will give even more options, even more better quality, more efficient experiences. But what we need is people in these communities. So many.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Chris, you're a great example. Your previous experiences as a former British Army colonel, and now you working in Web3. I mean, talk about that progression. Tell us a little bit about what suddenly moved you in this direction, and maybe that will inspire, people who are asking this particular question about what they can offer.
Sure. I spent 26 years in the British Army, and operated around the world. I left in August last year formally, and I've always been interested in optimizing human performance. How you build and lead teams in really complex situations, and looking at innovation, how you bring that to bear to seek competitive advantage, and then win in that environment. And actually, throughout my whole time, I realized that collaboration and seeing perspectives through different lenses, multiple lenses, is the only way that you can come to agreeable solutions. If you try and impose your will on somebody or an organization, it may not have the effect that you want it to. So, much better way to create a stability in any environment is to get the buy-in from all the stakeholders and come to a conclusion that is beneficial for everyone. And I think that goes back to what Benjamin has been talking about with this idea of community. And your original question about what the pandemic taught us is about, actually, I've got to know the people who live next door to me, who I ignored for the previous 10 years. I actually know what's going on in my environment now, rather than just, head down on my phone, go to work on the train or whatever you do. And actually, I think that has really caused us all to have a bit of a think about what we're doing here, and how we can do it better. So for me, I wanted to use all the experience that I built up working in sort of multinational organizations and bring that into this environment. But also, we're sitting on a planet that, is in real trouble at the moment. And if we, as participants in Spaceship Earth, if we don't get this right, we won't be able to answer your question about where we see ourselves in 10 years' time, because we might not have an environment that's actually going to enable us to get there. So I think if you think of Web3 as more than just the technology, but also about an ethos and a philosophy as well, that comes from that whole kind of blockchain environment and the cypherpunks originally. But, this idea that there are new ways of doing things, and, the current economic models are broken, current politics is not working for everyone. Web3, blockchain in particular, enabled by a better web, will give us this new socioeconomic prosperity that will free us up from the problems that we've got. We're suffering from wicked problems. They need really interesting collaborative solutions. And I see the communities that are building themselves into DAOs and all of the other opportunities of Web3 as one of the routes out of the cul-de-sac that we've backed ourselves into.
Yeah, that's a great way. That's a great way of putting it. And I think a lot of people will agree with that. jumping on the back of that, actually, there's a question here from Luca, which is, we need a totally decentralized metaverse. We need a metaverse that is accessible to all, uncensored, and not controlled by anyone. What do you think? Do we agree?
So I would not phrase it this way. I think we need an open metaverse, which is I've never been a big believer of this idea of one metaverse. Like this is that single destination within which one I can then navigate. So this idea of the metaverse, like that was built by Neil Stephenson back then. I think it's I believe more in the open metaverse, where you will have a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of different operators with their own, who will share the governance with the different stakeholders again, and with really some strong interoperability between these things. And actually, and of course, because they will be running on the blockchain, no one will be able to have such a heavy control, even within one of these metaverse, one of these verse, I would say.
Yeah.
So this is more how I see it than this kind of a gigantic but single but unique destination.
One metaverse to rule them all. It's probably what you don't want to see.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll have the multiverse is probably what we should be talking about, and then Facebook will have to rename itself.
Oh gosh, take a leaf out of Spider-Man's book.
It just be called multi after that.
Yeah, and actually, Delz, Sam Taylor actually has asked a question here. I think just bridging in from what we've just been talking about, the metaverse. Would fashion from Thrill Digital be accessible across multiple platforms or networks, cross-chain, for different metaverse projects?
That's the ambition. So, I mean, with all these things, there's always what we want to happen and what can happen. So, I mean, in a perfect world, we'd want all the assets we make to be interoperable with all virtual worlds and most games. But there's some technicalities regarding file type, file size, blockchain choice. Is it EVM, not EVM compatibility? So I think it's something that long term we'll iron out. But like that is the end goal, I think, for most digital fashion projects to be interoperable long term.
Yeah, interoperability is definitely the key, I think. Right, guys, we've got 5 minutes left, and 2 of you are going to be speaking at our brilliant Web3 conference next week. It would be great. And Delz, I'd love to ask you kind of what you're looking forward to at the conference as well. But Chris, just give us a bit of a heads up as to what we can see from you at the conference next week.
Sure. Okay. I am going to be sitting on a panel talking about the new data world that we're in. I think that'll be really interesting. There's going to be some fascinating guests on that with me, and be moderated for questions to be asked from the floor as well. But I'm also giving a talk, very privileged to be able to talk to an audience about how we unlock the learn to earn social fi economy. So, people might have, there's lots in there, but, social fi is an area that is being investigated now, and it's about how do we maximize value creation out of communities and social interactions. And the learn to earn, I think, is going to be an extension of, we've got play to earn, and then play to learn, and then, potentially this learn to earn. So, how do you share what you know with consent and your own choice that other people might need to know or are looking for, that can actually return value to you? And, we believe that's entirely possible now, that you can attribute code to people. So you can attribute knowledge, because knowledge can be wrapped up as code. And then you can be able to sell that. You can be able to keep your IP. And then every time it's resold, you may well be able to earn money from it. So, yeah, we're looking at what we're trying to build in Cordial World, which is to sort of imagine this world where everyone's empowered to share their lived experience and return I'll receive a fair reward for it and build up a reputation score at the same time.
Fantastic. Sounds fascinating. Do you know when that is, that particular talk?
That is at 7 o'clock on the 26th, I think, UK time.
Fantastic. Benjamin, what are you talking about at the event?
You can totally, you're going to be able to tell the difference between the very reliable Army colonel and the slacking game developer. To be honest, I can't remember when, if, but I'm pretty sure it is happening. You told me it would be a relaxed pre-event, so I pretty came unprepared at this point. But I think, you know, in any case, right now, all of these I'm actually a speaker to many conferences these days, and not because I'm trying to just preach the same thing, but because we're at such an early stage of these topics that every conversation is always bringing something, and I find that it's really fascinating. I wish I had more time to attend more of them, also very often as a listener, because it's you know, nothing is really, it's not like no one can really claim to be an expert and say it has to be this way, you know, or this is the way it is. You know, it's really more about right now together, collaborating and building it together, building it up. So I don't know what it will be. I can't remember what it will be about, but I'm sure whatever it will be, we'll be talking about new stuff.
Whatever it will be incredibly interesting.
Well, I would remain a bit more humble, but we'll talk about new stuff.
And Delz, what are you most looking forward to at the Web3 event?
It's meeting more like smart, talented, and amazing people, and just like hearing all sorts of opinions, and you know, just thinking and like innovating more as a result of all of that. So yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah.
Well, one of the great things about this AirMeet platform that we're all on is that it has a networking function. So there will be breaks throughout the day where we can all chat and speak, and you guys can put, that are listening in the audience, can put your name in the hat to speak to specific speakers if they're available during networking. So it's a very interactive platform, which is fantastic. Now, speaking of being interactive, our lovely audience have been putting together some polls. Well, they've been answering our polls. So Nikki backstage has been asking lots of different questions from what I can see. And again, I've got a cat that is jumping on my desk. Nikki, do you want to share some of the poll results that we've got just to finish things off? Here we go. So what interests you most out of the below subjects? So we've got here NFTs, metaverse, DeFi or Web3, blockchain, gaming, and d-commerce. And what have we got as results? Oh, I'm not sure if we've got the results for these. Well, we'll have to keep you guys in suspense. Oh no, here we go. So, it's quite an even field between NFTs, the metaverse, and Web3. So there we go. Very, very fascinating to see those kind of results come up. Well, listen, everyone, thank you so much for joining the discussion with us today. Nikki is going to help close the event. And just from my point of view, thank you very much to Chris, to Delz, and also to Benjamin for providing such amazing insight on Web3. It's been a fascinating hour-long discussion, and we look forward to continuing it next week at the main conference. So thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and
everyone.
Nikki,
Nice to meet you all.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And yes, all those subjects there are going to be conversations that we host here at Tech Circus on the X year's cycle. So looking forward to it. Keep an eye out for those emails about the events that are upcoming. Look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks for that.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye now.